Right, good morning everybody and welcome to the executive meeting on the 2nd of March 2023. I am going to get onto the agenda. So minutes of the last meeting, members, are you all happy with the minutes?
That's carried. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much. Urgent business, I have not been notified of any urgent business to bring forward. A division of the agenda, there will almost certainly be a need to divide the agenda, at least for the last item, if not before then. So we'll be ready for that when it happens. Declarations of interest. Members, do you have any disclosable pecuniary interests, other registrable interests and non-registrable interests to declare? Councillor Bastone.
I'm a director of the Freeport.
Thank you, but that doesn't prohibit you from presenting the report, does it? So that's...
It did previously.
It did previously, but it doesn't now. I think that's been overcome. And public question time, I haven't been notified of any public questions. So we will move straight into the executive forward plan. Members, do you have any questions on this? Nikki.
Thank you. Just it's a little bit presumptuous to have members' names after beside meetings after the 5th of May. Although I'm pretty sure that I will be here, I wouldn't like to presume that I will be on the executive. So I'd like my name removed, please.
You what?
I said if you're running the council.
I think that's a point well made. Thank you very much. Yes, my name can definitely be removed from the draft annual report of achievements. So that will be for somebody else to present. Any other questions? Any questions from the floor? No? Well, in that case, if everybody's happy with that, we'll move on to the next item, which is Better Lives for All. Year three update. I can't believe that we've been, this is year three, but yes, it is. I think this is a welcome refresh. And we've had a number of successes over the last 2 years, for which I'm very grateful to both to the lead members and to officers for achieving them. And there's been good progress made on most items. I know there's been a little bit of slippage on some of them, but I think that's inevitable because things happen, and and a lot of other things have happened beside things that were in Better Lives for All, and we and officers have had to cope with them, so it's hardly surprising. There is, though, disappointing progress on a few items. I won't single them out here, but I think we all know which those are. It's right now that the final year of this delivery plan should accommodate the key items listed in paragraph 2.4 of the report and as justified in paragraph 2.5, along with the carry forward items. So I hope that everybody's happy with the report as it now stands. I know that the lead members have signed off their part of it with their lead SLT members, so should be all right. But do you have any questions, executive members? No? Any questions from the floor on what's in this revised plan? Well, in which case, I'm going to propose the recommendations, and this will go to Council to approve the minor amendments to the Year 3 Better Lives for All delivery plan as set out in Appendix A.
Secondly.
Does anybody want to debate this, or is it just going to go straight through? I'm quite happy for it to go straight through. Right, let's vote on it, please. Oh, you wanted to say something, Councillor Hopwood.
Thank you, Lee. I just wanted to say that I think this Better Lives for All has made us focus on things within the council and within our portfolio areas. It's helping us to keep a better eye on them. I think it's an excellent document. I think it's worked really well for the past 3 years. and I look forward to it developing and continuing to work well. The only thing I would ask is that not all of the South Hams, and I say this with all the documents we produce that have pictures in them, not all the South Hams is beautiful countryside or lovely rivers and sea. There are some parts of the South Hams that are really lovely housing estates, and we never see them in a plan. Thank you.
Point well made, Nikki. Yeah, and I think after 3 years, I have to say, we're so used now to having a corporate plan, Better Lives for All, that perhaps we don't remember the days anymore when we didn't have one, and how, if you like, we didn't have a focus so much on what we wanted to do. And I think this has been really valuable, particularly for this administration, to bring forward the things that we wanted to get done, and a lot of them have been done, and to have the agreement of all other members that that was the way forward, and it was a good thing to do. So I think we've had buy-in from the whole council on this, and it's really pleasing that it's gone as well as it has. Not perfect, but then the world isn't perfect, but it's a really good start. And I hope that when the new council comes to build their corporate plan, they will have in as many good things as we've had in this one. So we'll move to the vote now. All those in favour of the recommendation?
That's unanimous. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much. Right, so item 8 is revenue budget monitoring. Councillor Bastow.
Thank you, Leader. This is the third revenue monitoring report of 22-23 and covers the first 10 months of the financial year up to the 31st of January 2023. The report asks the executive to note the forecast income and expenditure variations for the period of 2022-23 and the overall projected surplus of £127,000. This equates to 1.2% of the total budget of £10.464 million. An analysis of the projected variances against budget are shown in Table 1 of the report. The overall position has improved since the last monitoring report, when a deficit of £46,000 was forecast. This is due to a further increase in investment income. Income from Treasury Management is now anticipated to reach £1 million during this year, against a budget of £877,000 over budget. This follows the recent interest rate increases, but also reflects the sound investment decisions made on a daily basis by our finance team. The additional investment income is partly offset by an increase in the projected shortfall of planning income, which has moved from £260,000 to £350,000 based on current income levels. However, it should be noted that this is a volatile area which can be very difficult to forecast given the impact of large applications. The position of the main income streams for the period of 1st of April to 31st of January 2023 is summarised in the table on page 51 of the agenda. As discussed at the Budget Advisory Committee on the 19th of January, an update on spend on the waste service to date has been included in paragraphs 3.2 to 3.4, and I would point out from 3.4, draw your attention to 3.4, that the additional payments at the moment are about £290,000 a month. I've seen some horrendous figures being quoted on social media of £3 million overspend, but this certainly does not meet that sort of figure. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Bastow. Executive members, have you got any questions for Councillor Bastow on this? No? Other members? Councillor Brazil.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, First of all, welcome this. It's good news. County, we're certainly not in any position like this at all, so it's great to see a surplus. Just a few things on that, particularly on employment estates income. Delighted to see that. And hope that we use that as a springboard to build, to look to be building more industrial estates, because there's definitely a need out there. People are always getting in touch with me wanting commercial space, and I think it's a way that we can both facilitate the local economy and indeed make revenue for the council and therefore lessen the burden on taxpayers. So that I think is worthy of comment. The other thing is just for my own mind, the inflation, and we talk about the waste contract here. I know that's been faulted. So are we saying that's sort of a retrospective that we've had to pay that extra monies?
We've been paying. Sorry, that's the amount we've been over budget since we took on back the project. All right, Lisa, if you want to say.
Yes, does Lisa want to say something about this?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yes, so that is the contract inflation from the period of 1st of April until the end of September. So it's for the 6-month period that the council was still in a contract. And the reason that there is an overspend is because when we budgeted for that contract inflation, we budgeted at 3%. But the actual contract inflation has come out at 12.2, and that's because it's done on a formula, and that formula is based on 3 indices, one of which is fuel inflation, the other one is salary inflation, and the third one is linked to CPI. So there's a formula that is applied. That formula came out at 12.2. But the problem with the formula is you don't know what those indices are going to be until right at the very end of the year. So they get published around March time, and obviously that's after we've set our budget. So that's why the actual amount is higher than the amount we budgeted. Very similar to pay when you find out what the actual settlement is, but you've budgeted for your figure way before that. So we budgeted for 3%, but the actual in indices are 12.2, but that's only for a 6-month period from April until September. Thank you.
Can I just add to your point about employment units? The 6 Batson units will be able to be handed over to the proposed tenants very shortly. The ones at Langage, the plans are progressing and those should come on stream shortly. But I think, if you want more employment units, this is something that the new council should consider. We have delivered some, definitely. We recognise the need, but we also recognise the need for all shapes and sizes of employment areas. And whilst we're very good at small ones, there are medium-sized ones and larger ones that people are looking for too. So I think it's all grist to the mill, and it's all good, but it's having the ability to bring them forward, because not only does it involve a lot of officer time, it usually involves borrowing as well. But I think the ones at Langage, we have got a provision to be able to deliver those, so that should be better. But thank you for the question. Are there any more questions on this? If not, Councillor Bastin, would you like to? Oh, sorry, Councillor Long.
Yeah, just a question on the planning income, because I'd like a little bit an explanation as to why it sort of there's that increase from sort of 300 shortfall to 350 when we are seeing a greater increase in the number of planning applications coming through.
My thoughts on that would be that we're not getting the large applications that we used to get, and Sherford is not moving, for instance, as fast as we would have expected it to move. So it's the larger applications we're not getting. When we set off on this cycle with the JLP, there were quite a lot of large applications from the land we allocated, and those have started to sort of dry up a bit, and we're reliant on small applications from householders, etc.
Yeah, I'm afraid under the present system, we are completely under the stranglehold of the large developers. So, until things change, that's the way it's going to be. And it's always very unpredictable, the amount of planning income we get in. And we've always said it's very unpredictable. But having said that, it's not disastrously under at the moment. And yesterday, we heard that there was a consultation starting on the proposed increase in planning fees. So let's hope that that happens fairly speedily. Right, would you like to propose the recommendations, Councillor?
Yeah, if I could move the recommendation that is on the screen, that the executive resolves to note the forecast income and expenditure variations for 2022-23 financial year and the overall projected surplus of £127,000, 1.2% of the total budget of 10.464 million.
Right, thank you very much. And I think with that should go our thanks to the Treasury Management team for doing such a good job.
Need a seconder.
Oh, I'll second it. Thank you. Does anybody want to make any comments on this? No? Oh.
Wake up, Chairman. Thank you. Well, I think this is alluding to the fact that we produce a balanced budget, which we know we have to do. And I think it's a credit to all our staff that we are online to have made a slight underspend on our budget as opposed to being several 100,000 over budget. That's all I want to say, Chairman. Thank you.
Do you want to come in?
Well, no, I was just going to say, I think, it would be careless of us not to thank Liz Truss for tanking the economy and causing interest rates to go up so that we've managed to make more money for our investments.
Councillor Brazil, I'm sure you will send her your personal thanks. Right, well, we'll pass to the vote on this item then. All those in favour, please show.
That's unanimous. Thank you, Leader.
So the next report, agenda item 9, is the capital programme monitoring. Now, be aware that Appendix A is exempt. So if anybody wants to discuss the figures in that, we'll have to go into exempt session. But we should be able, I think, to get away without having to do that. Councillor Basto.
Thank you, Leader. This is our standard capital monitoring report, which is presented to Executive once a quarter. This particular report covers 1st of April 2022 to the 31st of January 2023 and asks the Executive to note the content. The report advises members of the expenditure against budget on the individual schemes within the approved capital programme. A summary of the capital programme is shown at exempt Appendix A. All of the capital projects are within their approved budget, and the award of contracts is subject to the Council's procurement rules on competitive tendering, and therefore the allocated budget is commercially sensitive, and that's why it is in exempt Appendix A. I would just add one thing, draw your attention to 1.3, which talks about the capital programme going forward, and that there will be a fundamental review of all capital schemes within the existing capital programme in this coming summer, which I think is a good idea, because I do know of projects on there that have been there since 2016, so a review is long overdue. Thank you, Leader.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Basto. And yes, and it will be an opportunity for the review to include some of the projects in the new corporate strategy when it happens as well. So just as a small addendum to that. Right, executive members, any questions to Councillor Basto on this? No? Okay, anybody else, any questions? bearing in mind that if you want to talk about anything in detail in Appendix A, you need to declare it before you say anything. Oh, okay. Councillor Bastone, would you like to propose the recommendation then, please?
Yeah, I'll move the recommendation, which is that the executive note the content of the capital programme monitoring report.
And I'll second that. I'll second that. Anybody want to make any comments? No? Okay, let's go to the vote. All those in favour, please show.
That's unanimous. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is item 10, write-off report for Q1 and Q2. We've got Mrs Hodgkiss here, so Councillor Bastone.
Thank you, Leader. This is our standard write-off report that we bring before executive on a half-yearly basis. This report covers the first 2 quarters of 22-23 and asks the executive to note the debts written off by the Section 151 officer of £94,271.49, shown in tables 1 and 2, and asks the executive to approve the write-off of individual debts in excess of £5,000, totalling £81,599.34, which is shown in table 3. For both business rates and council tax, there has been an increase in the number of insolvency and bankruptcy cases in 2022-23 and their value as outlined in the report. The council has a good track record of collecting debt, and the council's collection rate for 21-22 was 98.3%, which is 2.4% higher than the national average of 95.9%. The council's collection rate for business rates was 98.1%, which is above the national average of 95.5%. Collection rates for 22-23 financial year are on track, and any debts outstanding for previous financial years continue to be pursued. The report also asks the executive to adopt, with effect from the 1st of April 2023, the council tax, business rates and housing benefit overpayments write-off policy, which is attached at Appendix A. This will supplement our existing procedures. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Bastone. Any questions? Executive? No? From the floor? No? Have you just read out all the recommendations? It seemed like you had, but perhaps you haven't.
No, I haven't. No.
Well, would you like to move them?
I've covered them in the report. Yeah, it's true.
That's what I mean.
But so in that case, I'll
move
just propose the recommendations that are set out on the screen there.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'll second. I'll second them. Now, any comments? Anybody? Yeah, Councillor Baldry.
Striving, as we do, always to be top of the table, and we congratulate ourselves on being 98.1, but I note the Team Bridge are 99%. What are they doing better than us?
Well, what were they doing better than us, I think is the question. But we've now got a secret weapon because we've got Jenny working for us. So, so we'll expect, well, it'll be a great pleasure to see the figures going up from here, because there is a policy for people who really have a genuine reason for not being able to pay, but everybody else should be paying.
Leader, are we having a discussion on Team Bridge District Council's finances? Because I can add something to the pot if you want to.
No, I don't think we need to go into general discussion, Councillor Bastone, but I know where you're coming from. Right, okay. Has anybody else got any comments on this? No? Right. Okay, well, thank you very much. We'll move to the vote in that case. All those in favour, please show.
That's unanimous, Leader, for the recommendations. Thank you.
So the next item, agenda item 11, is Councillor Hopwood, Council Tax Discretionary Discount Policy.
Thank you, Leader. As a council, we are able to support residents with
Councillor Hotwood, have you got your microphone on?
No,
Could you start again? Because
Yeah.
the public won't have been able to hear what you're saying.
okay. As a council, we are able to support residents with a discretionary council tax discounts when they experience exceptional life events which impacts on their ability to pay council tax. The Local Government Finance Act of 1992 gives billing authorities like South Hams the discretionary power to reduce or further reduce the amount of council tax a person is liable to pay. This discretion is in addition to various statutory reductions, discounts and disregards which reduce the amount of council tax payable in specific circumstances. The council last agreed a council tax discretionary discount policy in March 2015. It is good practice to review policies at appropriate intervals, and during the current cost of living crisis, it is also important for the council to set out all the support it is able to offer residents. The proposed council tax discretionary discount policy, attached to Appendix A, sets out a policy framework for assessing applications for these discounts. It is important to stress that these powers will only ever be exercised in exceptional circumstances, as the cost of any discount is wholly met by the council. The council does also have an exceptional hardship fund which supports residents receiving council tax reduction but are still struggling to pay their council tax. Both policies ensure that we will continue to provide residents with certainty that we will try and support them in paying the council tax during both significant one-off life events and times of financial hardship. And I think it's always been for the past, since we had the cost of living crisis, we've had numerous pots of money that we've been able to find to be able to support residents who are in financial difficulty, and we have supported them financially, but we've also supported them with advice and signposted them as well, because advice and signposting is to some people as important as financial help. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hotwood. Executive members, any questions for Councillor Hotwood? No? Other members, have you got any questions for Councillor Hotwood? Right, Councillor Hotwood, would you like to move the recommendations then, please?
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder?
Second.
Thank you. Right, does anybody want to make any comments on this paper? Councillor Bastow.
I think it's good news again, and it shows the support we're giving to those in need within the district. And at these difficult times, we must do everything we can to help those with financial problems, and we're certainly doing the best we can to achieve that.
Thank you, Councillor Bastow. I would add that this is in a supplement to the scheme we've already got, based on income and everything. So I think we are showing that we're helping our residents who are really feeling the cost of living crisis and have other life-changing events as much as we possibly can. And we do sympathise with the difficulty that a lot of people have got in paying council tax. But we must remember that our share of the council tax is only 8% of what people pay, and some people in the towns are paying a larger precept to their town than they are to the district council. So whilst we shouldn't feel self-satisfied about it, it's good to get it in perspective. Right, does anybody want to make any comments on this? Yeah, Councillor Rose.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Rowe.
Oh, so, okay, thank you. Did you say Rose?
Yeah.
I meant Rose rather
you.
than Councillor Rowe.
Whatever, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. It's Rose, so not a problem. That's how most people know me anyway. However, I would like to ask, does that mean that they will only get the discount possible on the 8% of our council tax, or the total amount?
No, it's on the total amount when they get it.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other questions or comments from the floor? Because if not, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour, please show.
That's unanimous, Site Leader.
Right. So The next item on the agenda is agenda item 12, and this is the housing crisis update. Now, as usual, this is kind of a multifaceted report because it involves several things, well, two at least, or three actually. And so part of it could go into exempt session if people want to discuss the details, but again, we might be able to get away with not discussing things in huge, well, the sensitive things in huge detail. This report details an opportunity for South Hams to participate in the Local Authority Housing Fund and purchase a number of properties. The report is recommending 7 properties for ownership by the council to support placement breakdown for guests with us under the Homes for Ukraine scheme, and also to support families left stranding in bridging hotels who escaped the conflict in Afghanistan over a year ago. Now, I think we all appreciate, in the circumstances of the difficulty of housing our own residents, that this is a sensitive subject, but I still believe that, notwithstanding that, we have an opportunity here to help refugees, and these are refugees rather than asylum seekers, and there is a difference, and I think we are under some obligation to help refugees. And the rest of the report details things that we're going to do for our own residents, so if you like, it's a counterbalance to this side of it. South Hams residents have shown their support by welcoming over 200 guests from Ukraine into their homes, and we have a proven track record of support for refugees from other parts of the world. Not only would the purchase of these properties support this work, it would also provide a rental income for the council, and also, after initial use, to support the intended cohort now, could be used by the council to meet its own housing objectives. The finance modelling has been based on using Homes for Ukraine funding and around £385,000 from Section 106 funding. It's intended to use our oldest Section 106 contributions first, or the ones at risk of expiring. Section 106 agreements have been checked and can be utilised district-wide in accordance with our unanimously supported Housing Crisis Declaration of September 2021. We're not obliged to take part in this scheme. However, it does offer an opportunity for us to purchase property with 40% of government funding for us to earn in perpetuity and benefit from a real income. So if you like, we're taking the opportunity being offered to us by government, and I think this is a thoroughly good thing. Now, I'm going to say a few words on the exempt report without mentioning any figures, hopefully. This is about the opportunity to purchase a building to house homeless households in temporary accommodation. The opportunity has, we're seeing a huge increase in homeless families. This is a national problem, and we are no exception in the South Hams. The opportunity is to acquire the Westhill Flats in Kingsbridge. This is currently owned by Bournemouth Churches Housing Association and occupied for semi-supported accommodation. This would lessen the reliance on the nightly bed and breakfast accommodation payments we have to make and out-of-area placements, and most importantly would be a better place for families to go than bed and breakfast, because if you were a child, imagine living in bed and breakfast accommodation as your only home. This would at least supply some sort of temporary stability. The building would provide 9 units of accommodation and not only reduce the cost of alternative accommodation, but provide a rental income for the council, as I've already said. So at the time that the Housing Association purchased this building, we made a contribution as a council and Homes England made a contribution, and adding these two together means that actually the purchase price is a real opportunity because we can deduct those figures from it. so we would get it quite cheaply. It does, however, need some remedial work to bring it up to a decent home standard, which has been costed in. It's intended to pay for the purchase of the property and the remedial works from Section 106 Affordable Housing Contributions, again utilising the oldest of or those most at risk of expiring first. Westville will be a district-wide provision and reduce the need for out-of-area placements, because when we do have to put people in bed and breakfasts, inevitably it's in Torbay, not in our own district, because we don't have the right kind of accommodation available here. It's envisaged that the payback period for Westville, taking into account cost avoidance and rental income, will be around 8 years. So you can see that that's a short payback period and a real opportunity for us. So, members of the executive, any questions on this? Councillor Hopwood.
Can I just ask, please, this is purely for displaced refugees at the moment. How many refugees do we have at the moment in South Hams that we're having to put in accommodation in other areas?
We've been really fortunate in that our Homes for Ukraine team have been able to avoid placement breakdown, but we're now in year 2 of this scheme, and people have been managing with guests in their houses now for over a year. It's inevitable that there will be placement breakdown. We've weathered that storm so far. We've had to rehouse around 5 households, and some of those have required temporary accommodation. But as we move to the next stage and about resettling people and supporting them to contribute locally and to get into work and to education opportunities, we're at the next stage, hence the government opportunity being offered to us.
I think the point of this, Councillor Hopwood, is that if we're able to purchase these properties, then at least initially we can show that we're not actually using houses that could be used for our local population, and we're able to put the Ukrainians into separate accommodation. So it should be reassuring for local households, I think. I should also add that I should have mentioned the third part of this report, which I'm afraid I forgot to do, which is about the offers we've had for Kingsbridge, for the 2 sites where we're looking to build affordable housing in Kingsbridge. We had an expression of interest that went out, and we've had replies on that, and the report just notes that, and that we're moving forward to the next stages of trying to get to grips with the contractors or the housing associations who've applied to see actually what they can offer, and we'll give them further details so that they can flesh out their offers. Right. Councillor Baldry, I think you also had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. 2 unrelated questions. It says at the top of the report, wards affected all, but of course Kingsbridge ward in particular is affected by this. Have local members been involved in this, is my first question.
Sorry, Councillor Baldry, have the local members been involved?
Yeah, because it says it's all wards, but it's not, it's Kingsbridge.
Yeah, well, I know that the local members have been closely involved in the update on the affordable housing expressions of interest. Now, the Westville one, I'm not so sure on, because that is at an early stage, and we're just starting to move it forward, and there are a lot of negotiations yet to go. But I would say that although the accommodation is in Kingsbridge, that is for district-wide use, and it is already being used it's already in a similar sort of use in Kingsbridge, and the occupants there will again be from all over the district.
I see that one of the local members is online, so we
yes.
may hear from her later. My second question, Leader, relates to paragraph 4.2. Homes will be offered on a non-secure tenancy. Can you amplify, build on that? What sort of security of tenure will the occupants have?
Because it's temporary accommodation, by definition, they won't have security of tenure. But the idea is that they go there because there is nowhere else to go. But as soon as an opportunity for a permanent tenancy comes up, they will be in a high band because they're homeless, and they will be offered that accommodation.
Thank you. Yeah, I still would like to see some sort of assurance of security for them. Just supposing at the May elections an extreme right-wing party takes control of this council. I hypothesise they might want to chuck everybody out.
Or the Greens. Look, I think across party, I can't think of which extreme party would want to do that, but particularly in the South Hams, I think cross party, we recognise that we have a duty to genuinely homeless people, and we have a legal duty to genuinely homeless people, quite apart from anything else. I can't remember the details, but it's 2008 Act, is it? Or 2011? Right, well, okay, so look, the housing officers can't remember either, but we do have a legal duty to house homeless people, so we can't chuck them all out. Yeah, she has. Councillor O'Callaghan, you've got a question.
Morning. Yes, there we are. Yes, thank you. Yeah, just to say, Councillor Baldry mentioned about the local members. We are aware of the discussions on the rope walk, the expressions of interest that you mentioned. However, the partnership discussions with the town council and the district council have been on just one site, to be strictly accurate. We're now talking about 2 sites, but that isn't as the town council understood it. So just for the record, I'd just like to say that the town council wasn't aware we were talking about 2 sites, but that's as may be. But on the Westville flats, and I don't know how much of this is exempt, the ward members, I wasn't aware of this at all, no. So this is the first I've heard of it from this report. It's from what I can see, it appears to be a similar to use to what's already happening at that building. So I'd just like to ask if that is the case. It seems to be run in a similar way, and that I don't know, is it a district-wide allocation at the moment? How would it be different? And also, are we presume we're liaising? It's across the road from the local community college in the town. Presume we're liaising with the community college and again with the town council on what we're doing on this. Thanks.
Councillor Callaghan, the use will be similar but not exactly the same, because I think it's supported tenancies at the moment, isn't it? Yes. So that is slightly different. This will be homeless families. So the likelihood is, hopefully, they will be there for shorter time. But yes, they will be using the schools. We haven't been in touch with the schools or the town council yet, because the use is similar and negotiations aren't at a stage where we're able to tie it up yet. So once they are, then we will be in touch with, to tell the local, the town council and the schools that this may involve them, because with temporary accommodation, we will be getting children there who will need to go to school.
Great, thank you.
So if there are no further questions, I will move the recommendation at the 3 recommendations at the top of the paper, which you have on, 4 recommendations, which you have on the screen in front of you. Now, does anybody want to make any comments at all?
I'll second your
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Hawkins.
Just to say that I fully support this. It's an excellent scheme. A number of us went to an event in Ivybridge a couple of weekends ago at the Watermark Centre where we met families from the Ukraine. It was a fantastic event. It was lovely to meet them. And anything we can do to assist them, we need to do as much as we possibly can. And with the homeless strategy we've got, this will certainly help take people out of sending them to a travel lodge in Paignton or Torquay or Plymouth when they really do need to try and find a home in the South Hams. So, yeah, very good.
Councillor Brazil.
Yes, thank you, Judy. Yes, I welcome this report. I think it's really good news, and I know you're coming to the end of your tenure here as a councillor, but just to say that I think it's a suitable legacy. Can I just say that to the work that you've done in this respect? My one comment would be around the where I would, I don't want to rain on it at all, because I think it's a fantastic report, and I think it does everything that we should be trying to do as a council. But my one area would be that rather than just the 7, that I think we should try and go full throttle and go for the 10, or is it 11? I can't quite, seems to change during the report, because I think that we should take up the opportunity of a 40% discount, basically, from government. And I appreciate what you say about that. Inevitably, there will be people who, the usual suspects, complaining about the fact that we should be looking after our own rather than refugees and people less fortunate than ourselves. But what I would say to them is that, first of all, it's not that we're displacing housing for our local residents who need housing. This is additional to. And if I turn members' attention to 2.9, I think it is, and it says here that when the property is no longer required for the intended cohort, the council can use the property to meet its housing need and will retain ownership of the asset in perpetuity. So my view is that we should take full advantage of the 40% discount that we're getting from government, or the 40% grant, but same thing. And go the whole hog. I see at 2.6 it talks about 11, because as you yourself said, in fact, if we're using these houses to house refugees that we have a statutory duty to do so, then that means that there will be, by definition, there'll be other houses available for our local residents. So I would hope that people can realise that this will benefit us all, and in the medium and longer term, indeed, we will have a pool of houses that we own which can be used for our housing need. So I would, I hope there's the opportunity to re-look at this and possibly go to the full 11. But other than that, can I just say I think it's a superb report, and a testament to the work that you've done in pushing forward the homelessness and housing issue. Thank you. And can I say to Izzy and her team?
Well, yeah, they are a brilliant team. I tell you, they are brilliant. And I'd like to thank them for all the support I get in pushing things forward. I think on what you're suggesting, we did look at this very carefully, Councillor Brazil, and I think there is a judicious balance to be had when spending these Section 106 contributions. And I think what it boils down to is that we will only be using contributions that are more than 2 years old. And I think if an area has had Section 106 contributions, it is fair for that area to be able to get on with looking for projects immediately, and to spend contributions that are less than 2 years old is a little bit unfair on the local area. I think they should be given first dibs to find a project. And it's on that basis that we've sort of ended up talking about 7 properties.
If I might just come back, because I totally, entirely agree with that, and I think that that's an absolutely fair assessment of 106 and how it should be. But of course, it doesn't have to be 106. We could go to the Public Works Loan Board and borrow the monies to increase the number of houses. And of course, there will be a revenue stream because these will be rented out. And so that could pay the interest off and the capital of the Public Works Loan Board. So I just leave it there. I just think that we've been given the opportunity here. The government has said it's going to pay for 40% of it. I just think we should jump at that and say, yeah, great, lovely, because it's government money that it basically is helping to fund our housing issue down here. But anyway, I don't want to take away from what I think is a superb report, but those are my views.
Well,
thank you.
I think at the moment we have applied for 11 houses, haven't we? Or and we don't have to actually opt one way or the other until a bit later, do we? Can you confirm that, Mrs. Blake, please?
Yes, we have to sign the Memorandum of Understanding by the 15th of March, and we can negotiate that to the level, either the level that's requested in the report or more. There may be an opportunity, because a number of districts have been offered this opportunity and not all of them are taking it up. There may be an opportunity to redistribute some of that funding later on. We have to have purchased the properties by November. So that's a significant amount of work to purchase a number of properties by then. But there's no reason why we couldn't go back and revisit for the other four.
I think, can I just add to that? It would be possible to take an urgent item and have to the next meeting if we needed to increase that. And I think the intention is to try and buy new properties because they will require less maintenance. And I think it'd be interesting to see what the distress amongst house builders is during the summer with the number of purchases going down and the mortgage rates going up, as to what deal we can do on several properties on the same development. So we've got your thoughts very much in mind, Councillor Brazil, but it's a question at the moment of striking a balance. We could take on more public works loans, but I think at the moment we're fairly, we're not up to our limit, but we've got quite a lot of borrowing on, and I don't want to push the council into a position where it's overstretched at all, because we've seen what happens to some councils that do get overstretched. Not that we would ever get that overstretched, but I think it is absolutely understand where you're coming from, but I think it's a question of making a judicious kind of balanced view on this. Has anybody else got any comments? Councillor O'Callaghan, your light was on again, but it's gone off now. Councillor Bastow.
Yeah, I have to agree with Councillor Brazil to a certain extent, and I don't think we should forget those other properties. I think we should keep them very much in mind, and if the opportunity arises and we do have money available, I think it would be a good purchase.
I entirely agree with you. It appears that over 70 properties will be purchased across Devon in this scheme. So that's across all the councils in Devon, which is, a good number for the county collectively to purchase. But I think Mrs. Blake makes a very good point that they've got to be purchased by November, and actually finding and processing that number of properties is going to be a challenge, isn't it, Laura? Anyway, if nobody else has got any comments, we'll move to the vote on this. All those in favour, please show.
That's unanimous. The recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, so the next report is the Development Management and Planning Enforcement Improvement Plan update. And I'm very pleased that Ali Wagstaff's here to on hand for this report. Right, so I asked for this as a marker at the end of the council from the last report in July. It is for noting only. And I am pleased to report a definite improvement in most aspects of the planning service over the last 6 months. And this is in the face of still considerable difficulty in the planning department of getting hold of planning officers, getting them to stay, and various other problems. And I think being a planning officer at the moment is not a lot of fun, because since the pandemic, the public have got quite officious, agents have got quite impatient, and generally they don't, I don't think, treat our officers with the respect they deserve. However, on the inside, I think things feel better. And when I talk to planning officers, I get the impression that they are feeling happier. They have at least one day together when they come in each week, when they're able to make contact with each other. And I think it's really important, especially for the more junior planning officers, that they do get together at least one day a week. Sometimes it's two, but that's really important. And they've got senior officers on hand to help them with problems and to seek advice. The caseload for each officer is returning to something like normal. but is continually being upset by the churn in officers, but that's being well managed at the moment. The conservation area appraisals got off to a slow start, and this is one of the things in Better Lives for All that wasn't completely up to date. But I'm glad to say that now we've got a really competent officer in post that is moving ahead, and I'm confident that we will start seeing the results of that very soon. Overall, there's a much calmer feel, and I commend to members how hard our officers are working on this. As I've said, often in a quite hostile environment. The executive are asked to note the progress of delivering the improvement plan and conservation area work, and there will be a further report brought back in 6 months. Now, executive, any questions on this? No. Any other members got any questions? Councillor Long.
Thank you. Just some clarifications on some of the points in the point about the extensions of time, and there's a comment in 5.7, the role of the Development Management Committee in terms of securing the completing Section 106 agreements post committee resolutions as part of the improvements. I just wondered how this was envisaged sort of rolling along, and what sort of changes in sort of DM committee to deliver those. The other element was in discussions around enforcement. It talks about improved processes to improve the service, and it'd be interesting to see that brought to members. And I do applaud the conservation area appraisals, and I have to say that having been involved in the original appraisal in Salcombe back in 2010, I think it's long overdue. But what I would ask is that those appraisals and any approaches or updating of the plans is brought back to ward members and the town and parish councils of the area before they move ahead, because I think the value that I found back in 2010 was the conservation officer there involving the local residents and parish council in establishing that appraisal and getting a management plan forward. So I think that would be good if that can be achieved in this. But I applaud that we are actually moving ahead well with that.
Thanks. Mr. Wagstaff, would you like to answer those questions on the committee involvement and the other point, enforcement and conservation areas?
No problems at all, and apologies, my writing wasn't necessarily as quick there. In terms of planning committee, one of the key things I think it would be really useful to do as part of the committee's involvement when we get the major applications or those requiring a Section 106 is, rather than just agreeing a resolution to grant subject to Section 106, to put a time period on that to help focus the applicants and their solicitors' attention on the importance of getting those Section 106s resolved expediently. What you can certainly do is, for example, make a recommendation to grant conditionally subject to the Section 106 being signed within 3 or 4 months, and that if not, a report needs to come back to the planning committee, just for, not to reconsider the item, but just for an update on it. It's just a way of focusing people's attention that solicitors aren't to be left to just enable the negotiations to be ongoing. It's a good way of focusing the attention on that. In terms of enforcement, one of the key items we're looking to bring forward as part of the planning improvement plan is actually to do a comprehensive update of the council's enforcement policy, to make sure we've got that clearly and succinctly set out exactly what we will be doing, how we do it, and the engagement we will have with people. Within that, one of the improvements we've made, just briefly, to the process since we've had the report drafted is, as members will probably be aware, when a enforcement case has been ongoing but a planning application has been submitted, they were previously closed down to await the outcome of the planning application being considered before enforcement case would be reopened. What we've now done is change that process to make sure that those cases aren't closed down, to make sure that it doesn't appear to people on the face of it that the planning application coming in is simply going to resolve absolutely everything, because that's a consideration which needs to be made. And so we're ensuring that those cases remain open, which will have a knock-on implication on the amount of cases we have live at any one time, but it does ensure a more consistent approach is taken and a singular enforcement case that can then be taken going forward. So that's just one of the starting bits of the process that we're doing alongside increased training for the planning enforcement officers, part of the wider training we're rolling out within the department. And certainly in relation to the conservation area appraisals, I'll have a discussion with the officer and just work out how that consultation engagement will be taking place as the conservation area appraisals have been developed, before we then look at how we would then implement the actions on those and consider whether or not the conservation areas themselves need any potential changes in relation to their boundary and the elements of properties which are included within them. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much for that. I think that's really really encouraging, and certainly the Section 106 agreements, I've been asking for some time that there should be a time limit put on them and brought back. I think it's a question of deciding what the most judicious time limit is, because some of them are quite complicated, and the hold up isn't, for various reasons, is not always on the applicant's side either. So I think we've got to be careful about that. Now, everybody's got to work hard to get these Section 106 agreements over the line, because I know there is a huge list on an exempt list on the end of the development management reports, and it's actually quite frustrating sometimes to see them not moving forward. Mr. Powell, do you want to say anything on this, or are you happy? No, you're all right. Okay, well, that's fine then. Okay. Has anybody else got any other questions? No? All right. Well, I will move the. Well, it's just the report is just for noting. I'm asking officers to bring back another report in 6 months' time. Oh, sorry. Yeah. I'll stop moving the recommendations because Councillor Hopwood has got a question.
That's fabulous, thank you. Just an well, not an afterthought, sorry, that really is the wrong thing to say with what I'm going to say, but I think we tend to forget how hard our planning officers do actually work, and we always note questions, isn't it? Debate.
No. I'm just, well, is there a question? Because I'm just moving the recommendations, and if you've got a comment, you can come in with a comment afterwards. Right. Okay, I'll go back to moving the recommendations. So, note the progress on the delivery of the improvement plan. Ask for a further report in 6 months' time, and note the progress with the development of the conservation area appraisals and neighbourhood plans over the past 2 years. So, any comments? Need a second up.
Seconded.
Thank you. Right. Any comments? Yeah, Councillor Hopwood.
Thank you, Chairman. I have a comment. Apologies for that. I do think we often get reports about the DM and the planning enforcement and the whole team itself, and it always seems to be a bit doom and gloomish. But actually, they do work exceptionally hard in under really stressful circumstances sometimes to make sure that planning applications are heard within the time period. And I think we should recognise that, and I'd like that recognised in the minutes, because the team are galvanising themselves and they're working better together. And to be honest, I think the planning team have always worked really well under really hard circumstances, and it's not their fault when they get bombarded with planning applications, which is brilliant because that means, you know, that there's an income as well for the council. But they do need some recognition for the hard work they do, and they do go above and beyond, I think. And they certainly do, I believe, with members to keep us informed about what's going on. So I would like that recognition for them, please.
Certainly, Councillor Hopwood. I think we'd all second that. Does anybody else have any comments? Councillor Baldry.
Yes, I'm really just going to support and welcome what we've just learnt in the answer to the question from Councillor Long, because I think it is excellent news. I think on the 106s having a time limit, we know that some developers, and indeed sometimes with in-house, things are delayed, and it's good that that is going to be recognised as a problem and dealt with. More importantly, I think the idea that enforcement cases are not withdrawn as soon as the planning application goes in. The impression I get quite often is that people have an enforcement case, they think they're going to get away with it, and they get caught out and the enforcement case is developed, and then they think, well, we better bung in a planning application, and this is going to stop that happening, and it keeps the enforcement case on the books, and I welcome the answers to the questions from Councillor Long?
Yes, indeed. I mean, I think there is a lot moving forward, and I think it's very good now having Ali Wagstaff here, sitting above the everyday hurly-burly of planning applications and able to actually see the wood for the trees and get things organised in a better way. And I thank him very much for the work that's been done so far. Though in fairness, Pat Weimer had started it and had written the improvement plan, and it's largely that we're sticking to, but we're beginning to see the results now. And that's why I absolutely wanted a report before the end of the council term, so that we could actually put down a marker on what had been done so far. And I thank everybody involved for what they've done, because I think we are on the way to having a much better planning service. Still a lot to do on the member side as well as on the officer side, but we're getting there, and it'll be for the new council to take things forward. Okay, so if there's nothing else to say, we will pass to the vote on the recommendations. Those in favour, please show.
That's unanimous. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much. So the next item is the service level agreement between the council and the South Devon AONB. Right, we've been here before, haven't we? So in March 2020, this was an original agreement which was agreed, and this was the famous thing that Mr. Molyneux had to take through under emergency powers, if I recall rightly, because this was the first lockdown executive meeting we had, where we weren't yet able to take decisions, and it was all a bit of a hurly-burly. But nevertheless, this original agreement in March 2020 was agreed. And I think we've all seen the consequences. I would be very happy to be proved wrong, but I don't recall one single AONB report coming forward in my ward that we've been waiting for. Councillor Long may be able to disagree with me, and I hope he can, but I can't remember one. And I don't know who else has been waiting for them. So this, if you like, is a fresh attempt to pin down the AONB unit and to do something about the member discontent and dissatisfaction, which I hope will be dispelled by this new agreement. It's essential for officers to keep a close eye on this, and you will see that there are targets and percentages which have to be met, and to keep members informed when things are going off track. And I think the most important thing is for members not to have to keep chasing these reports, because it must be wearing for the planning officers. I quite appreciate that. But when you've got applications that are over 2 years old because they haven't had an AONB report, and when we had to take Burr Island after a year because, quite rightly, the applicant was getting absolutely mad because there hadn't been a decision, but he hadn't had an AONB report, then, you know, something is wrong. However, there are carrots and sticks attached to this, because as I understand it, the extra funding from DEFRA requires that we put in 25%, which is the £8,000 we are proposing to pay the AONB for this service. And so if they don't keep up with what they're what we're asking them to do, and we don't pay them the £8,000, they won't get the money from DEFRA in year 2 either. So I think there really is a bit of carrot and stick attached to this one. And we do need an improved performance. We can only live in hope. But the performance standards are set out, as set out in paragraph 3.1 of the document. So that's the targets which they're expected to meet, and that is further set out in the agreement, the proposed service level agreement, which is attached at Appendix A. There are, however, obligations on both sides, and our obligations are set out in paragraph 3.3. Members will have a further opportunity to appraise performance after a year, and I would ask that a further report is brought back within a year so that we can see what's been going on. Now, before I ask for questions, I don't know whether Mr. Powell or Ali Wagstaff would like to add anything to that. No? Happy with it? Okay, thanks very much. Right, any questions from the executive? Councillor Hopwood.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to make a change number 0.3 of the recommendation, please. And in addition to officers, in consultation with the lead member, nowhere within the terms of reference or this report does it say anything about consulting with the lead member, and I think that's very important.
I don't think that's an issue, Councillor Hopwood, but I would say that the lead member in the one-to-ones can always ask the question and we'll always get the answers. So, but if you want it in officially, then I'm happy for that's not a problem.
Chairman, whilst it may be always the lead member in one-to-ones, yes, I do want it officially, please.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. So instruct officers in consultation with the lead member, please, to, yep, with the executive. Right, members of the executive, do I have a seconder for that amendment? Yeah, okay, thank you. And is everybody in agreement with it? Yes? Okay, so the amendment stands. Thank you, Councillor Hopwood.
I've got another question, sorry.
Fine, carry on.
0.5 of the actual agreement itself, 0.5 under this what South Devon AONB commit to is provide at least 90% of consultation responses within 28 days of the consultation request being issued. Is that 90% specifically within 28 days, or is that 90% going to include consultation responses they've asked for an extension on?
I'm happy to answer that. It would be 90% received from the initial consultation, so within that 28 days. The ability to agree the extensions beyond that would be, only those 10% of those in accordance with the service level agreement.
Excellent, thank you.
And Councillor Hopwood, as that was originally written, it was 80%, and I insisted it went up to 90%. So,
thank you. I think it should be 100% personally.
Well,
if you have it of service leaving.
well, there are times when, for whatever reason, something goes astray. But I think a 1 in 10 miss is better than a 1 in 5 miss. So that was the reason for changing it. Councillor Brazil, you've got a question.
Yes, please. Can I ask? I mean, has this all been discussed with the AONB unit, and what are their views on it?
I think Mr. Powell can answer that question because he's been doing the discussions as far as I understand it.
Yes, Leader, Councillor Brazil, we've had discussions with the AONB unit in terms of setting the limit and the expectations, and also the monitoring, both from our part and their part. So they are fully aware of the SLA they'll be signing up to, and the commitment, and the fact that the funding will be dependent on performance against that SLA.
It will be interesting to see how it works, Councillor Brazil, given what we've experienced over the last 2.5 years, or 3 years now. Right. So we have the amended recommendations as on the screen, which I'm going to move now. Do I have a seconder? Sorry. Councillor Rowe, have you got a question? Sorry.
Yes and no. I'm not sure there's a question. Have you reached a debate yet or not?
No,
Or
we're
are you
trying
going
to move the recommendations. You can come in with a comment. Right, I've been stopped in my tracks again. Shall I move the recommendations, then
yes.
you can come in? Right, okay, so I'm moving the recommendations as on the screen. Do I have a seconder? Oh, right, okay. Sorry, I thought I wasn't going to get one, but I've now got 2. All right, well, that's all right. Okay. You weren't? Oh, all right, well,
in debate.
Councillor Hopwood has. Right, Councillor Rowe.
Well, thank you, Chairman. I feel that as a council, that we've lost track a bit and lost our closeness to the AONB. We used to get reports and be much more involved with the AONB, but now they seem to have distanced themselves from the council. And that worries me a bit because they used to be more part of the district council, and we knew what was going on basically, and we got reports back. No, we don't know anything about them really, or much of what they're doing. They seem to be way off doing things outside in the district much more than being in connection with us as councillors and the council. So I don't know if I'm right or wrong in those thoughts, but we do fund them to a certain extent.
Yeah, Councillor Rowe, I think it's part and part, because it's partly because we're not in the building as much. It's partly because they haven't been replying to planning applications. And we do have two members who sit on the various, well, in fact, we have members who sit on both the AONB boards, don't we? I know they've got issues with papers coming out late and things like that, and not being able to read them before the meetings. So I think generally, I think the AONB unit has been underpowered because DEFRA has not increased the funding. We haven't either, in fairness, but one of the reasons we haven't is because we weren't getting anything much from them. So it's a bit of a chicken and egg thing, but let's hope that at least this is resolved by this move. I beg your pardon, Councillor Baldry, because you wanted to ask a question. Oh, sorry, or make a comment.
There's a lot of deja vu here, isn't there? We've been here before, we've heard it all before, we've heard all the assurances. I'm going to listen to the debate, if there is any further debate, Leader, before I decide how to vote. The expression that comes to mind, you mentioned we live in hope. I think it's hope versus experience, which we have to discuss. You mentioned in your opening comments the frustration of members, and you also rightly said it's not just the frustration of members, it's the public, in particular the applicants, and also the planning officers involved. I'm going to listen to the debate, but I'm not convinced things are going to get a lot better quickly. I shall watch from outside and see what happens.
Councillor Hopwood.
Thank you, Leader. I didn't second the recommendations. It was Councillor Hawkins, just for the minutes. I don't want to second it. I will. It was Councillor Hawkins, but I agree with everything Councillor Rose said. We have been here so many times, and they are very distant. I do sit on the AONB. I have to say, since I pushed them and refused any meetings, if they didn't get their papers to us within 7 days before a meeting, or give us 7 days before a meeting, then we wouldn't hold the meeting, and that's just happened. They've had to move a meeting because they couldn't get the papers out. So I think there is slow progress being made distance to us, and they have been for a number of years. And so much of the South Hams is within the AONB and really needs to be protected. And these people are the experts on the AONB, and for planning, we need their help, and we need to listen to their advice, and we can only listen to their advice if we get their advice. So I will be watching this really carefully over the next 12 months, and I think probably going to whoever is the lead member who sits on the AONB after 3 months to get an update on how much progress is being made and how they are responding to planning applications, because I think it's important. We need to protect the area in which we live, and the only way you can do that is by full buying from the AONB unit. They've heard us time and time again criticise the way they work, and yet they don't change. So I just hope that this time they do. Thank you.
Councillor Bastow.
Well, I don't want to repeat everything that Councillor Baldry and Councillor Hopwood have said. They've said everything we need to say about it, and I agree with them.
When this report was coming forward, Councillor Hawkins.
I've sat on the AONB committee as a Devon County Council representative for many years. I think the world has changed, and their funding is a constant pressure for them. And I'm not making any excuses for the officers, because I'm not, but I think they're constantly chasing whether they're able to fund their service within the next 6 months or 12 months, which didn't used to be the case. And I also think the issue with planning, residents and organisations, societies see that the AONB is a way of preventing something that perhaps is a bit unfair on what level of service they can actually provide. I think there's too few of them. I think that is part of the problem. I'm not making excuses for them, but I really do think that what residents are asking of them is probably too much, and they need to contain that.
Yeah, Councillor Hawkins, there's a difference between the AONB and Green Belt. Green Belt, it is difficult to do anything in, but AONB, you can do it as long as you stick to certain parameters and preserve the natural beauty of the AONB. Councillor Brazil.
Yeah, thank you. I think we should look at this in perspective, really, that the cost to this council for the AONB unit that we have here is, with this extra 8,000, is £28,750 in total. And what we're asking them to do in respect of responding to planning applications with either the AONB, which, as we hear, is a lot of the South Hams. I mean, that's asking a lot, because if we didn't have the AONB unit, we'd probably have to employ an extra landscape officer who would probably cost more than that put together. And then, so not only do they have to do all the comments on applications, but they also do other things as well. Now, we may feel that they could do better, and I'm sure, you know, we could all do better, but I don't think we should try and blame everything that's wrong with the planning department on the AONB unit, because no, good. Well, I'm just saying that I think we need to put it in perspective. You know, if we were paying them a lot of money, like 4 times that amount, and not getting that kind of response, then fair enough. But let's have a look at the funding here. It's 28,000 for everything that they do, including responses to the AONB. I mean, to landscape. They do have a difficult position, because you can rest assured that people that write to them and say, well, what have the AONB said? If the AONB don't agree with what they think, then they get it in the neck. And it's you know, it's not an easy job that they've got, because they are balancing, as you say, a living dynamic environment with the wishes of some people who don't think anything should happen at all in the AONB ever. And they have to balance that. So it's not an easy job. They're not paid a massive amount from this council. So I hope that they don't go away or feel that somehow we're after them and that they, you know, they've got to pull the socks up. I mean, I'm sure they can do better, but I think that they need to have some support as well. And perfectly happy with the recommendations and everything, and to review it, but let's keep it in perspective. Thank you.
Councillor Brazil, as well as what we actually pay them, they get pay and rations from us as well, because they live in the building for free, and we do I think we do their HR for them and their pay slips and things like that. So they do get supplementary services.
Fair enough.
And the agreement sets out quite clearly which applications they will be expected to respond to, and it certainly isn't all the applications in the AONB. I think it's mainly major applications, unless there's a really good reason for needing a report. So it's not as broad as it seems. Now, when this report was first coming along, Mr. Wagstaff asked me if he wanted me to write an introduction, and I said no, thank you, because I probably want to say things that you wouldn't want me to say in the introduction. And I've actually tried to temper what I was going to say and not said too much, but I can see that that other members are kind of on the outer fringes of what I've said and would like to go a little bit further. I think we are all frustrated. I am prepared, I have to say, Councillor Baldry, a little bit against my better judgment, to give them a second chance, mainly because I'm being assured by my officers here that it's worth doing this, and it's for that reason I'm doing it rather than any other. So thank you, Mr. Powell, for twisting my arm, but I shall watch with interest to see what happens here. Councillor Basting.
A second chance, a final chance.
Just on a technical point as well, Burr Island isn't in the AONB.
I know it isn't, but views in and out of the AONB are very important and need to be considered. So it was on that basis that we asked the AONB for a report. Mark.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. And I agree and support what Councillor Brazil has been saying. I think the problem is the OMB do work under pressure, as our planners work under pressure as well. So, you know, they're coming at the same time. They are underfunding. The government is constantly looking at making changes, so there's uncertainty there. I do agree that the level or the presence of the AONB seems to have sort of reduced in certain areas. They've strengthened in some areas. Perhaps I see more of the AONB because of the estuary partnership and things like that. So where I'm working, so I do see more, but they have sort of lessened their profile a little bit, but they also have a lot to do. Responses from the AONB to planning applications, some have been slow to non-existent, some have been good and timely. So there's an inconsistency, and I think that's the big issue here. It's the level of inconsistency, and it's that inconsistency that frustrates the general public out there. And there are high expectations of it's the AONB, so therefore it's protected. And I think Councillor Pearce, you're right. You know, Greenbelt has a level of protection, the AONB doesn't. So it's setting those expectations. And I think the thing is with this, you know, as Councillor Brazil said, the cost to the District Council is relatively low. They are part of the requirement in there. A large area of the South Hams is covered by the AONB, so there is an expectation there. We've got this service level agreement. Let's give it another go. You know, it's both sides. It's both sides, and I think also part of the our notification of the AONB and getting information back. A lot of the problems I've seen is where additional information has come in on a planning application in. They've already commented, it's had to go back out, so it tends to be seen to drag things out. I welcome this. Let's give them another shot on this. Our planning is improving. I'm hoping the AONB planning will improve as well and their response. But we'll wait and see also what the government is saying about how AONB should be funded, what they should, you know, how they should be structured. So we'll wait and see where that comes. But, you know, I think we need to give them another chance. And this is given that opportunity, and this is laying it out quite clearly for both sides. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Long. I think Councillor Basten, you wanted to come back?
Yeah, I hear a lot of excuses coming from that side of the room, but this is the AONB's job, the unit. This is their job they've got to do. And I'm prepared to give them one final chance to get it right. And I think we need to make it extremely clear to them that this is their final chance. We just get a load of excuses, and they're supposed to be, it's their job to do this, and they need to get on and do it.
Right. Well, on that note, I'm going to take the vote. All those in favour, please show. Right.
That's 5 in favour. Thank you, Leader.
Those against? Abstentions.
1 abstention. Thank you, Leader.
Right. Thank you very much. The next item is item 15. Councillor Baldry, over to you on this. Off-street parking order amendments.
I shall wait for Mrs. Widdicombe to settle down, as she will answer all the... What are we doing?
Oh, because it's your ward.
Are you leaving us?
I'm going to leave.
It's Councillor Basten will not be able to vote on this item because it's in his ward. So
And Malcolm Johnson.
yeah, he is going for a comfort break, but that's.
I reminded him he couldn't.
But Councillor Hawkins, you won't be able to vote on it either.
I told Hillary he wasn't allowed to vote, so yes.
Yep, and you're not allowed to vote
I know
either.
that.
No, right. Okay,
Right,
so let's
sorry.
get that straight. And then,
Councillor
Councillor Baldry, would you like to introduce the paper?
Yeah, I thank Mrs. Widdicombe for the paper. I think it is very self-explanatory. The Dartmouth Health Centre we're expecting to open within a few months, as a result of which we need to make changes or propose changes to the parking arrangements. This will need to go out to consultation if agreed today, and I think the paper is self-explanatory, but I don't know if Emma wants to add anything.
Well, I think Mr. Fairbairn would like to come in first because he seems to think that you may be able to vote after all. So,
Bring back Hillary.
Yes, the chat goes up. Leader, I'm not sure why Councillor Baston has actually left the room or was under the impression he couldn't speak or vote on this. But
I've always been told that if you're an executive member and it's your ward, you don't. Sorry, I've always been told, as the leader will tell us, that if it's your ward and it comes to the executive, you don't vote.
that is correct.
Yeah.
And I think that's in the Constitution still, isn't it? I remember reading it, if I'm not very much mistaken. But this car park is very much in the Dartmouth ward, although the report says that all the wards affected are all, because I suppose we could all go and park in Dartmouth, couldn't we? But as far as the health hub is concerned, I think it will broadly be Dartmouth members and the surrounding parishes who will be using that health hub. So in that case, we'll just adjourn for a few minutes until Councillor Baston comes back. So can we go offline just for a couple of minutes? Okay, so we're streaming again now. So the adjudication is that for this item, the Dartmouth members can speak if they want to, but they will abstain from the voting until this is clarified in the new constitution. So, do I have any questions on this paper from, first of all, members of the executive? No? Any other members? Councillor Brazil.
Thank you, Judy. I see in it, it notes all the car parking provision. Is there any provision for cyclists and electric bikes?
So we're currently working with Co-Cars and Eco having the electric bikes at the Park and Ride site. It might not be that it's in the medical centre car park, but it will be up at the Park and Ride.
And are there any electric charging points up there?
Yes, so there'll be electric charging points at the front in the Park and Ride delivered by the Deletti project through Scottish Power, and then there will be additional electric charging points in the medical centre car park as well, which will be 6 parking bays for electric cars.
Thank you very much. We've got a lot of GPs driving around in electric cars now. Good. Right. No other questions? Right. So, Councillor Baldry, would you like to move the recommendations?
I will move the recommendation. There's too many to read out. They are on the screen, and just look for a seconder. And can I add, Leader, interesting about electric bikes, but this is about a traffic order, and electric bikes do not require traffic orders.
No, it is about a traffic order, but it is also about the changes in the car parking arrangements up there. So, so I think the question was well asked. Do we have any comments? Councillor Hawkins.
This is practically in Helen Reeves' ward, so it's almost out of Dartmouth. Only over the hedge. But I would just like to comment, we had a health and wellbeing meeting recently in Dartmouth Tuesday. I asked the question whether a 30-minute free period was required by anybody at that meeting, and there was about 12 people there, and they all felt that this is perfectly acceptable, and they're very happy to support it. So that's why I'm very happy.
Good, thank you very much. No further comments. In that case, we will pass to the vote. Members, please show.
That's 4 in favour with 2 abstentions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. White. Right.
How does he know I abstained? How does he know I abstained?
Because you could
Just
see,
didn't put your hand
because you've been told you were going to. Right. So we will pass to the last item on the agenda. We've got Andy Wilson here, recruitment and retention. Yes, and we will go into. Oh, sorry. No, there is one more item after this. So it's not the last item. Sorry. Yes. So we. I don't think we need to go into exempt session for this one. Now, the Chief Executive will remain for the first part of the discussion, but will leave if we want to discuss anything that concerns him, and will remove himself from the comments part of the paper. So we'll have questions first. Members of the executive, do you have any questions? No?
No.
Other members, do you have any questions on this? Councillor Brazil.
Yes, thank you, Judy. There's a lot of numbers banded around here. And what I'm interested in is what are we proposing here, or what is being proposed within this paper in respect of percentage increase in pay to chief exec and senior officers?
Chief Executive will answer you, Councillor Brazil.
Thank you, Councillor Brazil. As the report sets out, there's a range of measures which we're proposing to take, which will ensure that there will be a minimum increase in pay for all staff of 6%. Actually, for those staff in the lower bands, typically they will be receiving a pay increase between 9 and 12%. With regards to the pay for the recommendations from the independent panel as set out in the report, I think it's paragraph 3.2, that would result in a 7% pay increase for directors and indeed for myself. I haven't made this comment publicly, but I'll make it now, Leader. In the event that the executive choose to agree this, and indeed council choose to agree this, it's my intention that I should cap that increase to 6%. I think it's appropriate that there shouldn't be you shouldn't be paying your senior team more than you're paying your staff, and I'll be asking the directors to do the same. So I hope that gives them reassurance, Leader.
But Councillor Brazil, I think the point of this in the longer term is that we need to have tools by which we can retain and recruit, if we need to, people who can do the job, and the senior leadership team is the most important team that we have in this council to move things through. Now, I think with T18 it was recognised that because of the way the jobs were evaluated, that salaries were very much pushed down. And I remember at the time certain officers telling me, not senior officers, but certain other officers telling me that they were leaving because they couldn't afford to stay on what Southampton was offering them under the new regime. And I think generally some of our salaries have been a little bit suppressed. And what is obvious from the information that you have in this paper is that other councils, both locally and nationally, have been pushing ahead quite seriously, and there is a need to catch up. Now, this happens every so often. It's not the first time it's happened to me that I've had to consider a paper like this, but I do think that in the circumstances it is the sensible thing to do, because we want to retain our staff, and in the unlikely event we don't manage to retain them forever and ever, well, that's not unlikely because at some stage everybody's going to leave, aren't they? But we need to be in a position where we can recruit people of similar ability to those posts without too much difficulty. And it's not an easy job. We've got a lifestyle down here that people may well covet and want to come to, but they've got to be able to afford to live here too. So I think that's the important thing. Are there any other questions on this? in which case I'm going to move the recommendations. I'm going to ask Mr Bates to leave at this point, and we'll get you back in when we finish this paper. Oh, yes, if you want to, yes, please do. Yes, yes, please ask your question, yes.
No, I've got a question, a comment after the. No, I haven't got.
Have you, Mark?
It's a question on this, because obviously this has come forward. There's been the reviews. You've had the look across all the various other councils and things like that, and it sort of looks to be playing catch up. One of my things is there something similar going to be done annually to ensure that there isn't this drift going along? I haven't seen it in the sort of process that's there, but I would have thought that it would have been, better rather than sort of jumping in suddenly and doing it. There's an annual review, so that it doesn't things at all pay levels don't get out of step.
Well, the ordinary officer below SLT, the officers are on the national pay scale, aren't they, Andy? That's right, isn't it? So they have to take whatever the national pay offer is. And I have to say that the offer this year was not particularly helpful to us, because we don't have many people on minimum wage, and it actually would have been better if a different system would have been better. And it looks like it's going to be the same system again next year, which again is not terribly helpful for us, but all officers nationally are on that pay scale. Our senior leadership team is different, and you'll see that there are 3 grades that they move through. So I suppose it would be every 3 years we'd need to be looking at this, wouldn't it?
Do you mind if I come in?
Yeah, do, yes.
So hopefully I can clarify. So a comprehensive review was done by Andy Wilson, head of HR. So we did a comparison across Devon as a whole, and that's in addition to the national advice from the LGA. What I would say is there's absolutely a plan that we will do that on an annual basis. So that review came through in terms of advice to SLT, in terms of our pay and grading strategy, Councillor Long, and we will do that annually, because you're quite right. We need to make sure we not only match in terms of pay comparability the local market, but we stay in touch with the local market, because otherwise in a year's time or 2 years' time we'll be back with another report of this sort. So clearly there's a commitment from me as Chief Exec, Head of Paid Service, in this capacity, that we will do that. Thank you, Leader.
And as to the organisational development plan, it was an undertaking in Better Lives for All, if I remember rightly, that this should be written and approved by us, and it is a good way of, if you like, setting out the offer that we are making to officers, and the kind of the contract between officers and employers as to how things are going to happen. I think it's really good to set out clearly what the commitments are. Investing in people, it's not actually their service contract, but it is a commitment that and a basis for working together and getting the best out of everybody and offering really the best conditions. Councillor Baldry, you wanted to?
Have you moved the recommendations? Have you?
No, I haven't yet, because we were still on questions, but why, do you want me to?
No, well,
Because you've got a comment.
I'll do a comment.
You've got a comment, right, okay. So I will move the recommendations on the screen, and at this stage,
No, I want to comment.
well, look, do you want the Chief Executive here or not?
Yes.
You do?
Oh, okay.
Well, in that case, I'm not going to move the recommendations until he leaves. So you can make your comment now.
The comment I want to make, Leader, is I think these are 2 separate items. It's a pity it's been taken as a single paper. I think the retention and the financial stuff is a different item. I just want to say, having read the glossy document, this organisational development plan, I wanted to say it while Mr Bates was here. I think it is a brilliant piece of work. I think a lot of work and effort has gone into, and it's a great piece of HR to actually have the plan in front of us. That's all I wanted to say.
Councillor Hotwood.
Thank you, Leader. I've read this organisation plan. I think it's a superb document.
Good.
It's really clear. It sets out how we know when we have achieved what we want to achieve. in simple terms, and I think that's really important in an organisation. You know, because I commend Mrs. Bowen for writing this, because she takes most of, I think should take most of the credit for it. And when I spoke with her about the plan, I just to have those simple boxes, we will know we are succeeding when we are you know, and another box is we well, they all start with we all know we are succeeding, but it's just such a clear document, and I'm personally, I'm going to have a hard copy of this, and so I can tick those boxes off, because I think that one of the downsides of everything on a laptop is you can't tick things off when well, you can, but with a whatever it is, an X or a what, but I like it in front of me, so you can tick these things off when they've been done. And I really believe over the next 12 months to 2 years, whoever is in charge of this council, we will see this document more and more, and we will, I hope that the senior management team will be referring to it more and more, to make sure that we do get these boxes not ticked just for ticking's sake, but we do tick these boxes so our staff really feel the benefits of this written plan, because it's one of the best bits of one of the best plans I've seen within this organisation, period. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hopwood. I think Chief Executive would like to reply to you.
Well, thank you both for your comments. I'm delighted that you feel the way you do about it. It's an absolute commitment of mine and of the senior team, and indeed of all of our heads of service, that we're going to make this plan work. The most important thing we can do now organisationally is to lead, manage, support and develop our people, and that's what this report is all about, this plan is all about. It's about the balance between us as an employer and our employees, and it's about clarity about what we will do for them and our expectations of them in return. And if we are going to succeed and meet the ambitions that you will have of this council, we have to make sure that we support our team to be the best they possibly can, and that's what this plan's all about, which is why I've put my front piece on it, because I'm making a personal commitment about this, that it's important to me as Chief Exec and Head of Paid Service. So I really welcome your comments. Thank you very much.
Okay. So now I am going to move the recommendations as set out on the screen there. Do I have a seconder?
Seconded.
Thank you. And I would just like to comment about Councillor Baldry saying that you thought it was two different things. Well, it's about recruitment and retention. And I think both parts of this are about recruitment and retention. First of all, officers in general, and secondly, the senior leadership team. So I hope that answers your question. Right, do I have any comments on this from members? Executive first. No? Oh, Councillor Baldry.
I think you said most of it, Leader. It's about recruitment and retention, but I would say the emphasis is on retention. And we need to bear in mind that our senior leadership team and all our officers indeed are working for two different councils. And that puts a slant on it, which makes it more difficult than perhaps in other authorities where it is single council working. I'm going to support it. And I think if we don't, there is a danger that the retention part may fail.
And I think it's worth mentioning, you've got a list at Appendix 1 of the other councils where there are joint chief executives. Now, I know from my experience with some of those other councils that they all have different models of sharing. And I don't know of any councils where you have one team of officers actually managing two different councils and running two council programmes at the same time. So if you like, when we talk about salary increases for the senior leadership team, we're only paying usually half of that. Some of the officer divisions are slightly different, but I think for senior leadership team it's 50%, and therefore, if you like, it's a good buy for us. So I think that's what we need to remember and look at. And when you look at some of those other salaries, we are not hugely out of step. And I think particularly with the Devon authorities, we are in step when you look at East Devon, which is the largest, East East Devon's population is roughly equivalent to South Hams and West Devon added together, but it is only one council, it isn't two. And I think the complexity of running two councils actually is quite a strain, and they manage it admirably on the whole. So I think it's really good. Right, have we got any other comments coming up on this? Councillor Brazil, sorry.
Yeah, can I just say, I mean, I welcomed Andy's comments about the 6%. I'm still concerned that that's for this year, and that if we agree all of this, then suddenly we may see pay in senior executive levels going up a lot more. And on a point of principle, I do not believe that senior management, however wonderful they are, should be paid disproportionately more than people out there at the coalface delivering the services that we actually, that our people want us to do. That's a belief of mine. I think it's a problem that it's a massive problem we have in this country. That the salary differential between workers and executives has massively increased, and I think it does not reflect well on us as a society. And in this council, I would like to see that we are still, that we do not allow senior executives' pay to end up way over the multiple between them and the lowest paid in the South Hams. So that's why, I mean, I would like to, I read all the figures and I couldn't quite sort of see where it was, what was going up and what was going down and all that. So I would like to, I personally would like to see a cap there. All we do is we say, blah, 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 but we accept that at senior level, but their pay will never go up more than the workers. I do understand that there are problems with some of the experts, i.e. planners, lawyers and things like that, and we may need to pay more, but I think you can do that through the spine, and as you said, it's not actually, that's the first part, really, almost. So I do appreciate that there are problems there. But yeah, I mean, that's my view. And so I would like to see that, having written all of that, they say there's a cap on it that equals what the workers get as well.
Councillor Brazil, at council, we did have the report last time that showed the multiples of chief executives and senior leadership, the chief executives' pay against the people working in the organisation. At no point was it greater than 6. The cap is 10. So, I don't know what the answer is, but if you pay for what you get on the whole, and I think it's really true of all our senior leadership team that certainly within the last 5 or 6 years, they were fairly ordinary officers and they've risen through the ranks and thoroughly deserve to be in the positions they're in now because they've shown they can do the job. So there is that opportunity in local government to rise up through the ranks and get to the top if you want to. Now, not everybody can get to the top. It is a pyramid structure, but if you've got what it takes, you can get there. So I think we should bear that in mind too. And there's some encouragement to do it, isn't there? Councillor Hotwood.
Thank you, Leader. The South Hams proportion of this increase is £14,560 for all of the senior leadership team. It's already in the budget, and the trouble is it's I don't know if it's 3.3 in the report. So our cost of this salary increase is £14,560, and that's based on the appointments to the bottom of the scale. So we are not looking to increase salaries significantly. It's halved with West Devon. We've also been told that a senior leadership team is on a different pay scale to the rest of the organisation. I think we were told just now. And also, we've got to remember that with remote working, we are competing with London, Manchester, but I don't know who pays more than we do. The only place I know is London, because that's what I get told. But we are competing with the country now to bring people to the South Hams. So not only are we competing against significantly higher pay grades because of remote working, this isn't a lot. And I'm not an advocate. I'm not trying to be an advocate for SLT at all. But what I'm trying to say is they are extremely good value for money, and they are working solidly together, which is what we've always wanted. They've been together for a while now, so they're learning each other's ways of working, and it's working down through the organisation. So I think at £14,500 our proportion, it's damn good value for money, and actually it's not really worth that much of a debate because it's already budgeted for anyway.
Yeah, and just one thing I'd add to that. This is why, during my tenure as leader, I've been trying to up the profile of the South Hams, because when you do have a vacancy at the top, it's, you know, if the council is recognised as a council which is pushing forward, making itself heard, banging on at government about things and all the rest of it, and our name is up there, it is far more likely that you're going to get applicants of quality when the need arises. And I just hope that that goes on, so that, you know, when we need somebody, we'll get good people applying. Because if they think you're bumpkins and you're down there in the countryside and nobody ever does anything, you won't get the right people applying. So it is important. Okay, if we have no further comments, then I think we will go to the vote on this. So those in favour, please show.
That is unanimous. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much. Would somebody like to go and get, I think Chris Brooks outside. Thanks, Jonathan. Right, so we move on to the final item on the agenda, which is item 18. This is an exempt item, so we need to consider the following resolution to exclude the public and press, that in accordance with section 100A4 of the Local Government Act 1972, the public and press be excluded from the meeting during consideration of the following items of business in order to avoid the likely disclosure of them of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 of Part 1 of Schedule 12A to the Act. I'm proposing that. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Baldry. So we can move into